doesn't have to be perfect, and this is going to be perfect after post-production. So okay, I think we're live. What's up, Restoration World, Restoration Nation? Andy McCabe here. Stop 2 officially on the Restoration Road Trip 2024. Let's see if we can do it 2025, whatever. Seth Harrison, hello, is here. He's been so kind to completely disrupt his entire day to have me sit here at their new world headquarters of Actionable Insights. Seth, how you doing, man?
I'm good. World headquarters. Wow. Here's me in San Diego, living in the city, enjoying it, and all of a sudden it's global. It's world headquarters.
Well, you didn't know? You didn't get the memo?
I did not. It seems like I'd have to pay more for a global office versus just my little local one.
You would. You would. So, Seth, tell us really quickly, what is Actionable Insights and why should people care?
Sure. I think people care most about the why as to why you do what you do.
Yes.
Actionable is a 501c6 educational nonprofit. We are a trade association.
Yep.
We were founded to preserve the health of the restoration ecosystem. Now that may sound pretty vague because it can be, but here's a universal truth I feel like all restorers understand. It is harder to do good work and get paid fairly every year.
Yes, it is.
There is more fighting between contractors and adjusters every year.
I agree.
And so Actionable was founded originally as conversations between local adjusters and contractors talking about invoicing and what would be reasonable and customary for invoicing in Xactimate when you're a part of an insurance claim. And those conversations between friendly contractors and adjusters turned into Actionable Insights as an organization wanting to foster these conversations around the country in the industry for people to have a conversation about, hey, we're invoicing. What's reasonable? What's customary? How would I need to justify this as a contractor in order for you, the adjuster, to be able to review and approve?
Okay.
So that was the whole idea. Hey, there's a lot of fighting. People want to do good work and get paid fairly. What can we do here at Actionable? And the primary thing that we talk about is invoicing and estimating.
Invoicing and estimating.
And I think it's wild that we don't have a standard of invoicing in this industry.
Xactimate's not that standard?
But Xactimate is not what I'm referring to as a standard of invoicing. Xactimate is a tool. Symbility is a tool. They provide us with a language that we can use between a contractor and a carrier. And we think of a standard, really we have OSHA and IICRC. They give us standards of execution and how to properly, safely, and execute our work.
International Building Code.
Yes. ICCs as well. So we just don't have anything in restoration that is showing us, hey, if this is the tool you're using in Xactimate, here would be the line items that would be reasonable and customary based on building methodology and the policy, claims, ethics, things like that. Like this is how it's done in the field.
That is absurd when you really think about it. We've been doing this a long time, and there still is no standard.
Everyone is self-taught or peer-taught in this industry for the most part.
Self-taught and peer-taught. Yeah, that was me, self-taught. and I wrote really poorly for a number of years. And depending on who you ask, I might still write poorly. I do run a company that happens to write really good estimates. So I was just told via an email rebuttal from an adjuster this week.
Oh, this is fun.
That the S500 says what I can and can't charge for.
Okay, that's not at all possibly true.
No.
So this is like, for about 5 years in my career at Actionable, I've been training and traveling around the country. We work with a lot of independent restorers to take a look at, hey, where are you making your money? Where are you not making your money? What is your estimating process? What is your technology process? And generally speaking, it's hard to make good money. And especially when you're new, this industry loves trial by fire. Loves it. It's the proving ground.
I think that's the rule.
It is like you don't get to make it unless you go through what I did.
That is the rule. Yes.
But I have a slightly different perspective. You were asking me before we jumped on a little bit about, hey, what was your background? Where do you come from?
Yeah.
I studied insurance in college.
Okay.
I was actually one of 3 people in my graduating class to study insurance. The other 2...
You were one of 4 people in the country.
Yes, probably. I went to the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania.
Study insurance?
Yes. I met the other 2 people that were studying insurance in my grade, and they were going to Las Vegas to play poker professionally.
Oh,
so
that makes sense.
Risk strategy management made a lot of sense. But I worked in insurance. Actually, I sold Aflac insurance as a 1099 employee. My friends still quack at me on the regular. And I realized I didn't love it.
Mm.
And I ended up looking for a new job, and I met a contractor who basically said, we don't know you and you don't know us, but if you're willing to give it a shot, we'll hire you. And I had a good background in logistics and finance and things like that. And they hired me to run a $6 million occupied residency repipe job in San Diego. It was my first job in this industry.
Okay.
Within 6 months, I became the superintendent of that project. Shortly after completion, I became an estimator, specifically a program estimator for nationwide claims for a contractor here in San Diego.
Mm.
And I was taught everything you can't do.
Yes. You were given a long list of things you can't charge for.
And I'm a why guy. Andy, I want to know why I can't do that or why I can do that. And it was...
Did you get any good answers asking that question?
No. But
I'm shocked.
we have to establish some kind of protocol as to what's reasonable and customary.
Yes.
I think, Andy, you and I have been to a lot of conferences the last couple of years.
So many
It's
conferences.
always a pleasure.
Just came out of Contractor Connection.
Yes.
I missed you guys.
And I'm curious, I was not in attendance. The universal problem I've seen for 2 or 3 years now is people, human capital,
Yes.
overall.
Yes.
We don't have enough people. The carriers need people. The contractors
We can't
need
keep
people.
the people. The people are churning out.
And so this is why I'm connecting this back to the idea of the self-taught or peer-taught, because we bring people into this industry that we desperately need. We expect them to burn alive and totally love the experience and come through. And we
Right.
wonder why so many of us years into this industry feel jaded or wronged at times by someone on the other side of the claim that you feel doesn't understand the process or doesn't respect the way that things should be done. And that problem's not getting better. That's only going to get worse.
No, it's only getting worse. It's only getting worse. It was interesting, as you know, and everyone watching probably already knows, I am not a huge fan of TPAs. Not a huge fan. But I did learn some things this week. And one of those things was I realized that the carrier is not intentionally making our life hard. They're really not. But there is a miscommunication or a discommunication or lack of communication from one to the other. And that's where these programs actually, it really pains me to say this, but they actually help with that. They are the communication piece. And what I heard over and over and over again is, if you can tell me why,
justify it.
We'll justify it. And that's, I think, to come back to quick actionable insights. Actionable insights gives us the why.
Yes.
Not just that, it gives us the what.
Yeah. I mean, that's important for anybody. It doesn't matter if you're a contractor or an adjuster. You need to understand the process, the purpose behind the process. Why do we do things the way if we're going to do this step, why do we then need to do this step? Why do we then need to do that step? There is an order of operations in this industry that is fairly universal when it comes to building things. Like there's a lot of different ways to build things, but ultimately there is a way and we can define it. And as long as we have the tools to help us properly charge for it, then it should be a lot smoother.
Yeah.
One of the things that I found with TPAs, as a program estimator, I'm a man who loves games, Andy. I like sports. I like video games. I like games. Give me the
Game theory.
Give me the rules of the game and I will play. My only request is that you don't change the rules. And it felt like, as a program estimator, very often every interaction I would have on every individual claim with every individual TPA reviewer would be different. I had a couple instances, one where a carrier or a TPA representative told me that they could not approve plant-based antimicrobial. So I proceeded to go to page 14 of the 27-page document that we had signed, where it never said anything about antimicrobial. It was the only place they talked about antimicrobial, but didn't specify plant-based. But the thing with TPAs, you talked about the promise of the TPA. What is it there for? What is their actual goal? And something that we talk a lot about in our training classes these days that I think everybody needs to be really aware of, the first notice of loss is going to the carrier more and more every year.
Yes, it is.
Younger generations are not opening the yellow pages. They're not calling the local contractor when there's water on the ground to go do work. Yep. They're calling their agent, they're calling their carrier, they're calling their parents, and they're asking, what do I do? And when the first notice of loss goes to the carrier, naturally that claim will be routed through TPA work, program work. And so
as much as possible.
Because that's the system that's been developed in the industry. So like if we understand that the first notice of loss is going to the carrier more and more, that means there will be a higher percentage of program work every year. So it's not, the industry doesn't care if you like program work or don't like
No, it
program
does
work.
not.
That's very, very clear.
No, it does not.
To me, it is important that you understand the trends of what's happening. And if you can either choose to, I don't do any program work, that's fine. But I would also recommend not burning the bridges, because if that is a book of business that could be available to you or help your business at different times, great. But the one thing that we've always talked about at Actionable is a contractor is only as good as the jobs they say no to. Anybody can take a job, but it takes a sophisticated restorer to know what jobs they're good at, what jobs they're not good at, and kindly say no to the jobs they're not good at. And for many people, program work is that idea.
Pause, rewind, listen to that again. Yes, some of the best jobs are the ones I did not take.
Mhm.
Some of the worst jobs are the ones that I got this feeling like I shouldn't take it, but I was like, oh, I need to work.
Yep.
I need to work. And in any situation, if you are desperate for something, you're going to make a decision that might be contrary to your best interest.
And this is why I say program work is not going away, but you get to decide if it's going to be a part of your business or not. The one thing that I'm hopeful for, Andy, is the future of the managed repair aspect of this industry. Everything feels inefficient right now. It feels very, I got to do this step, this step, this step, this step.
Disconnected.
Yeah, just,
Okay.
it's just, there's too many, here's another way we say this. We've added about 20% administrative burden onto the contractor for what benefit? Why does a contractor have to do so much work up front to burden themselves? And
What
primarily
benefit for the contractor?
Well, the burden specifically is the educational burden. Contractors have to now educate the adjuster as to the building methodology, as to why they're doing what they're doing. This is, I've
never thought of it that way.
Every training, oh yes, every training class that I have, we have multiple numbers of students that have been in this industry for years, that know how things are built and know how to estimate and Xactimate. But the conversation is, hey, Andy, did you know that the average tenure of an adjuster right now in the property insurance industry is 28 months, 2 years? That's it. So naturally, we don't have adjusters as often that have been around for 10 to 20 years that understand here's what's reasonable and customary. And so you're working with somebody that's fresher, newer, that doesn't understand all the order of operations. I could complain, I could lament about this, but our training is around how do we succeed in today's property insurance market, not what we used to do 10 years ago. If we understand adjusters need a better presentation to understand, you need to explain the order of operations a little bit more clearly. Things like this actually help in ways that we didn't have to do it before, because we have to actively educate the other side of the claim as to what we're doing.
So paint me a picture.
Yeah.
3 to 5 years. From now, how is that going to change?
It's a good question. Some of the work we're doing at Actionable Insights right now, if you've heard of the Actionable Profile,
if you haven't, you're living under a rock. Getinsights.org. It's easy. Just go do it. Okay.
Thank you. Xactimate added a new inspection engine inside of Xactimate, which essentially allows your team, while they're writing estimates, to get live estimating guidance. So if you are making a mistake, you're typing in line items and you've done something that's wrong, a little alert will pop up and say, hey, you might have made a mistake, double check or correct this.
But even better than that,
it also looks for what is not in your scope that should be there. So this is a really important aspect of my job.
That's my favorite part.
Thank you. As an estimator that joined this industry, that did not have a ton of experience coming in, but desperately wanted to learn, all I wanted to know was, what do I not know yet? Right? I figured out how to estimate for drywall and paint, but now I've got to do masonry. I've never done masonry before. So how do I figure that part out?
And you got to do carpet.
Yes.
12-foot cuts.
Yes.
And
So the beauty of Xactimate is that there are a lot of options for invoicing, but that also means it can be hard to find the thing you're looking for. So if you have essentially a guide, a Sherpa, that's checking your scope while you write it to make sure you haven't made the mistakes that would be common to make, and you've included all of the warranted line items based on the scope that you're putting together.
Okay. So let's go back to painting me a picture.
Yes.
The future. What does the future look like?
So tools change the future. We've had a few opportunities over the last 10 years in my mind, what I call paradigm shifts. Now, paradigm shift to me was late 1980s, early 1990s, and the introduction of computers. I remember my 1994 Gateway PC that I grew up with. That to me was a paradigm shift that changed how we do what we do. And then people have looked at the Matterports and the docu-sketches as a potential paradigm shift, which I'm not sure yet because it hasn't changed everything about how we do it.
I don't think it changed the paradigm.
But it did change how the roles are performed in the industry, making remote estimating and centralized estimating.
It opened up accessibility.
Yes. But it hasn't changed.
It hasn't fundamentally changed. But we are about to see some I was about to curse, some crap, some real poopy is going to happen here. What's going on?
What Xactexpert allows us to do in Xactimate, it allows us to provide guidance to somebody in whatever environment they're working in. So for us, because Actionable is not a carrier, we're an educational nonprofit, our goal is to create a set of alerts that essentially is a sandbox of estimating that's just guiding every user as to here's what's reasonable and customary, and here's the why behind this particular process. But Xactexpert is not just limited to us and Actionable. It's Xactimate's tool, and they plan on putting it everywhere.
Yes.
Imagine a future that when you're working in program work, that while you're working on that particular claim, there's guidance that's popping up on the right-hand side that is guiding you of, hey, you're working in a State Farm claim, here are the State Farm guidelines, so that you make sure you follow them the first time around.
Yep.
The other statistic that we're trying to address with the Actionable profile, the average number of revisions right now before a claim is settled is 3.7.
That's a lot of back and
contractor to
forth.
carrier, carrier to contractor, contractor to carrier, carrier to contractor, and then maybe it's settled.
Maybe.
And that's an average. So
don't forget the supplement.
Yeah, and there's that as well. So that's not ideal. That's very, very inefficient.
Okay.
That number should be closer to 2. And if you ask a lot of the people on this call, that number should be 0 in the sense of I submit my invoice and you pay me, you pay the invoice and you indemnify the customer. So,
but that's not realistic.
Not
Really,
always.
Not in the future. We're going to be
Not always.
Yeah.
But the industry has a hard time right now with the amount of inefficiency and the amount of educational burden on contractors to constantly communicate why they have to do what they're doing.
Yes.
And there are real costs to having to educate people.
You've got full-time employees that's their sole purpose in life.
Yeah, there are a lot of problems in this industry that people will hire a person that's their full-time role. I know companies like Surety that have been working on flow of funds and helping contractors get money to their company directly faster. Like I've heard contractors that say, oh, I don't have a problem with two-party checks or collecting mortgage payments and things like that. But the reason they don't have that problem is that they're paying somebody $60,000 to $80,000 a year to go do all of that for them constantly.
Chase that money.
And so I look at the future, 3 to 5 years from now. What we are doing inside of Xactimate as a collaborative partner, it gives me a lot of hope that the estimating process becomes way more efficient. Like we are actually not doing the things we're not supposed to do. We are actually charging for all the things we're supposed to charge for up front at the beginning. I'm not trying to get rid of supplements, but I think we could all agree if we can write a full scope up front to the best of our knowledge that can be approved and we can get to work, everybody's happy with that process. And then supplements do show up for the fantastically unknowable things that happen as you go.
Well, there's a difference between a 50% sheet with a 50% supplement and a 90% sheet with a 10% supplement.
And I think everybody wants that 90 up front. Like we want to get to that point in the industry,
100%.
But we can't hire new people or promote people from the field to an estimator position and not provide them with the tools and resources that they need to succeed.
Right.
And for years, we all did it. That's how we got where we are today.
That's right.
Those who survived those trials of not having the resources we have today, welcome, you're here. Hi, nice to see you. But this is a time more than ever. I feel like the introductions of the Matterports and the docu-sketches got people comfortable over the last 5 to 6 years with checking out the newer technology in the industry and being familiar. But this is another stage of, there's a new tool being added to the software that we use, or that a lot of people use to generate invoices and estimates, that is actually making like a bottom line impact in a way that we haven't had before.
Mhm.
So that's things that people should know about and be paying attention to see
So
how
it's
it can impact
that
them.
rule set. You guys have your own rule set.
Mhm.
Well, you've developed this rule set based on your best effort to reach standardization, common practice.
Yeah.
Now the carriers are going to have their own rule sets.
It's true.
Now, are we going to see how soon? I know it's a given. We are going to see it, but how soon are we going to see you have an actionable profile, but then you have a State Farm, and you have a Lions Bridge, and you have those rule sets within Xactimate. Are we going to see that this year?
No idea.
Okay.
Straight up, like I have my
Not my
profile
circus, not
and
my
my
monkey.
rule sets, and that's what I work on and work
Okay.
on. I know that things like that will be coming, but I don't have a timeline.
Okay.
One thing I feel like Actionable's had the pleasure of working with a number of carriers in the last 8 years of my career here. And one thing I realized is that they don't work quickly. Just overall, the whole process to do something new or different or to change their claims process. And this is natural with any large company. For any of my small restorers, the medium-sized restorers, please enjoy the size while you are that size. Because when you get to that big stage, so many things
You get
tend
to
to go
make
awry.
changes
Yeah.
quickly.
Yes.
You get to course correct in a meaningful way quicker than a big organization. But I'm going to push back a little bit.
Please.
Seth, that I am seeing, talking about of size, big players. Carriers are obviously big players, but you have the big PE-funded Belfours, Blue Skies, the big players.
Yeah.
I see the carriers currently, in my opinion, are outmaneuvering them. The carriers are adopting AI at a faster rate than the contractors at this point, at a certain size. Now, small contractors, absolutely, there's guys that are just killing it. They're adopting AI. They're taking the technology, they're playing with it, they're breaking it, they're making it their own. But I see carriers are faster on the uptick when it comes to AI. What's your take on that?
There are 25 major carriers for the most part. It's a nice round number to work off of. There are thousands of contractors. Like you said, 5 or 6 to 7 big contractors. I feel like the patterns I've noticed over the last 10 years is carriers move quicker and more like coordinated than contractors have ever done. Like carriers can move goalposts slightly ever so much in ways that we're constantly trying to catch up to what
They're playing a longer game.
It's no longer a tools of the trade or cost of doing business now. Some things aren't warranted or afforded, or there's just new phrases and new language that I see pop up every year as to, okay, so this is how they're saying that now, right? Like I feel like it's just that's the new version of that phrase. But I wouldn't say that carriers are. I can agree with you that carriers are moving faster, but based on their intellectual property and data security and things like that, they are slow when it comes to I feel like full implementation. And you can talk with an individual adjuster who might have a little bit more experience with their new AI thing, and you could talk with an adjuster who's never touched that carrier's new AI thing.
Yeah.
So that's why it's hard for me to know for sure. Like, are they actually adopting it better or faster? Possibly, but I don't know if we'll see the implications of that anytime soon, because as most things in any industry, things start manual and then become automated.
Yeah.
So I feel like for a lot of this new phases of Xactexpert and things like that, it's still very manual. Everything that we're building, it's all very hard work. And I'm sure carriers are going through that same process the way we are of understanding this new tool and what's possible. And then you have to have somebody at the helm at these carriers that when they're putting together their rule sets, that they understand how the tool works, that they put it together thoughtfully. And if I see your face looking at me like, do we really believe that the carriers will be able to do that? And that's where I get to go, hey, this is why Actionable Insights exists. We are there as an advocate for the industry, for restorers and carriers. Really, we're an advocate for policyholders, because we're all policyholders. When something goes wrong, we want to know that the industry is ready to take care of us.
At the end of the day.
So I have confidence that even though things feel a little bit rough and maybe a little bit more manual right now, we will be in that place 3 to 5 years. Think about the actionable profile. In 3 to 5 years, I will have a ton of feedback from the people that use it.
Yes, you will.
I will have a lot of data to review to see how are people interacting
Mhm.
with these specific rules. Maybe if one rule's been bypassed 95% of the time it's ever fired, maybe it's not a good rule that we can look at and say, hey, we can update this. So when I think about the future and we invite data to the conversation and we think about the actual people that are using this stuff, I'm very excited of that implication.
You sound bullish. I like it.
You want people that are trying to solve hard problems in the industry excited about solving those problems.
Yes.
I feel like, Andy, I've definitely had phases in my career where sometimes things are harder, sometimes things feel easier, but the problems never go away. And when your goal is to solve the problems of the industry, I got a job forever. I'll say that.
Yes,
It's a wonderful place working here at Actionable Insights, but it's not easy.
Well, I know we've got a hard stop coming up here. Let's give something to the current users of the actionable profile.
Okay, what would you like to give them?
How can they best give feedback? My understanding may be skewed, so you just tell me, what's the best way to give feedback? You see something fired off, and you're seeing it like no, man, that doesn't apply. No, it still doesn't apply. Now, I could come up with examples.
Sure.
Now I'm blanking. Is it true that you can reply in that little box that comes up and tag somebody on your team? How does that work?
You could. Yeah, there's a bypass reason box for a warning rule in Xactimate that you can, if you've ever hit complete or marked and inspect and a little box came up with a few things and you had to hit the bypass button, that's the bypass box. And Andy, when we first started, one of our goals to get feedback was to have people in that bypass box say, at Actionable, at Harrison, at Martin. And that was a way that we would be able to see if a bypass note came through with at somebody, then we would go through it. But that's really hard to scale and communicate. And so here's what I'm very proud of. Cole Martin, my right-hand man here at Actionable Insights, is our customer success manager for all things actionable. And he mans the email support at getinsights.org.
Okay.
If you see anything while you're working in the actionable profile, the screenshot button, the hotkeys for a Windows screenshot is Windows Shift S.
Yes, it is.
But goal is take a picture, take a screenshot, send us an email. I don't care how you get us the feedback. Send me anything at support@getinsights.org. And if I don't understand the words that came in the email, I will email you back and say, can we try again? Because I do want to help, right? This is a living product, Andy. This is not something that's really important to recognize too, because Xactimate changes every month. There's 6 to 20 new line items.
Every single
20
month.
line items change every month. Here's a perfect example. About 4 months ago, we all woke up. Hello, restorers. Maybe you didn't know this yet. For about, 30 years, PLM TLT, the line item for a toilet, did not include a toilet seat as a component, and you were supposed to charge for TLTS separately alongside if you needed the toilet seat. However, 4 months ago, seats are now included in the toilet line item as a component, and the price went up accordingly. So if you were to charge for a toilet and a toilet seat today, you would be charging for 2 toilet seats, which would not be ideal. Now, before that change, we had alerts in our profile that said, hey, you're invoicing to replace a toilet that does not come with a toilet seat. Please also include TLTS if you need the seat. And as soon as
don't forget the angle stop.
Yep. Oh, don't worry. There's all the alerts will be there to remember every part of that plumbing process.
Right.
But when you see that change for our team, what that means is, boom, everybody's on deck. Okay, we need to go change those rules immediately, right? Now the ones that recommended toilet seats, inverse. Immediately. Now it needs to point out, hey, you've charged for a toilet and a toilet seat, but the seat's already included, so you're charging for it twice. Go. And that change has to happen within like a week because we get the price list on the same day as everybody else, the first of the month. And so that's our chance to jump in and go, okay, live product.
The first of the month must be a crazy time around here.
Yes, please. Keep support tickets low in the beginning of the month, please, if you can.
Does Various give you guys a heads up at all?
No.
Of course
we have a wonderful relationship with the pricing department.
Of course,
when you write,
that goes without saying.
When you put together a 3,000-page book of invoicing templates, trying to make it easier for people to use your product, the software company tends to appreciate your efforts to
Yes.
make it easier for the industry to understand how to use their tool.
Yep.
And that has resulted in 7 years of working with Greg Pine at the pricing department just
Yes.
to advocate, just to clarify. That's what we do when we work with the pricing department. We say, hey, people are fighting about this. What did you intend for the price of this line item, or what is this line item supposed to be inclusive or not?
Okay.
And also, we advocate for the adoption of new line items that do not exist yet. So this is a really good one too for people out there.
Can you give me your favorite line item that you guys have advocated for?
Yeah.
That got Vera said, okay, great idea.
Yeah, there's a few. If I go back, I mean, one of the first ones that I remember that we advocated saying, hey, we think this should be a line item if you guys agree, was Water Mask V. That's the line item to actually cover error registers and returns. And so contractors, especially in San Diego County, can get fined by the city if they don't properly protect error registers and runs before performing some certain services and
Protecting the indoor environment.
Yes.
Okay.
And so that's a good example of, guys, if you're ever doing something in the field and there is no Xactimate line item for it, please let Actionable Insights know.
Yeah.
Because if there is no line item for something, that means you cannot easily charge for it, which means the policyholder cannot be easily indemnified for it. And we have a problem, like for everybody. So often there's, thankfully, what I love about Xactimate, there's a million ways to do something. Miscellaneous line item, bid item, right? There's a million ways that you can tackle or approach an obstacle where there is no line item for the thing that you're doing.
Okay.
But if something's becoming common and there's no line item for it, that's our role in the industry to amplify the individuals across the country to say, hey, we're getting 20 people in the last month have talked about this new thing. A couple other examples, lay flat ducting. So that was a 2018 edition. That was one that we were thinking about. We had coil.
Lay flat didn't exist in the Xactimate database before 2018?
We had like a coil ductwork one, but we did not have a lay flat in WTR. And actually 2 months ago, we just got HMR in lay flat ducting as well. So 5 or 6 years later. One of the ones personally I'm pretty proud of, Scan 3D.
Yes.
That's the Matterport, I shouldn't say Matterport, it's the 3D geospatial scanning line item.
Adjusters still don't like it,
well,
but it's there.
Here was we started advocating for that early. And the thought process behind that line item is, hey, this is a tool. There are costs associated with performing it, hosting it, documenting it, leveraging it in the claim.
Non-zero, there's significant costs.
And incredible value. That's the other part. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. And if you can justify something appropriately, then there will not be an issue with the price of that thing. So the fact that there was no line item for anything Matterport or DocuSketch or even drone related made it a problem for the people that were performing those services to be paid back or indemnify their policyholder for those incurred costs. Yeah. So having a $0 bid item that just recognizes that this is a valuable thing, you can assign the price to it, but you have to be able to justify and explain it. So that's a good example of like, I wouldn't want Xactimate to dictate a price on that. That's not their role or responsibility, nor is there enough data around the country for a standardized scanning price in the property insurance industry.
There's 7 different platforms you can scan with
different pricing models,
and everything.
This is why I appreciate what we can do here at Actionable to recognize that something doesn't exist. It might need to. We will advocate, and then the pricing department will decide whether or not it's warranted to add.
Yeah, I like it. Well, we're up against your hard stop, Seth. Once again, man, thanks for letting me just barge in here,
dude. Thank you.
Driving I think this is 900 miles I drove to get down here.
It's impressive. It's impressive.
But let's do it again. This is always fun. I feel this is so much better in person than it is on the Zoom. Nobody asked a question this whole time. I'm surprised. But,
all good, peeps.
Hit us up afterwards. You guys know how to find me. Cole, I love you, man. Thanks for doing all the behind the scenes over there. And I'm looking forward to the continued success of Actionable.
Thank you.
And the continued advocacy of what you guys are doing. And I will support you 100% of the way, all the time.
Thank you, Andy. We're going to do our best to just continue building things that haven't existed before that help people do their jobs. I mean, the alternate motto of our company is let's find space to fall in love with our jobs again. that's it. Like we
I
want
love
to
it.
help people enjoy what they do and fight less. It's a long journey, but we have some exciting opportunities to actually impact in real ways.
Getinsights.org. Just get on board and tell them Andy told you to. That might get you a free balloon or
Who
something.
knows? Yeah, free balloons. That's what we got.
That's what we got today. All right, Seth. Good to see you, man.
Thank you, Andy.
And